And welcome to Solace Natural Living. Today I want to talk about hay and herbicides. George and I have been dealing with a few issues here in the garden, and yesterday we did some intensive research about what's going on with our plants. And there has been one common denominator when it came to what happened to the plants. So first off, as you can see, the corn is doing beautifully behind me. Herbicides, or at least the type that we found out that we're dealing with, doesn't affect corn. Matter of fact, they actually use these herbicides in cornfields to cut down on the weeds, and they don't affect corn. But wanted to talk to you today about that. So let me turn the camera around and show you a few things that we're dealing with at the moment and how you can avoid these same issues. Okay, first off, here are potatoes. They're in the nightshade family. There's some browning and some like curling of the leaves. And it's just overall looking pretty poor. Even these nice green leaves, they're all wrinkled and just distorted. They're not supposed to look like that. They're supposed to look more like these right here. See how they're just not very distorted. That's the way they're supposed to look. Well, with these potatoes, we decided to do dirt on the bottom, layer it with hay, and there's hay on the sides, and we put the potatoes down in the bottom, and then we basically did kind of like lasagna, and we layered it all the way up until they started growing out the top. Both of our potato plants are doing that, and also when you come over here to our beans, if you will look at these leaves, see how they're just kind of discolored in a way, like a really dark green, and they're just all shriveled up. They look nothing like these leaves, which is what they're supposed to look like. Okay, so there's another example of damage. When we come over here, a lot of these have curly tops. A lot of the leaves are curling, especially this plant here. So you can just see how curly they are. Another example is our pepper plants. I know this isn't exactly the best time to be filming, but I just wanted to give these examples. It is yellow. They're completely stunted. We did try to do some amendments for these, and they are coming back. But the rest of these, you can just see how poor they are. These have been in the ground for a couple of weeks, so they should definitely be developed, but they are not. And so we come over here to these tomatoes. Some of them are looking okay, except for this one sad little plant. Okay, so it's kind of hard to tell, but it's very wilty. The leaves are just, they're real soft. They're not like real stiff like these are. And we noticed this happened. So it's got this disease on it. I know it's kind of hard to tell in this lighting, but it's just sad. Okay, so let's talk about what could have potentially caused this. There's also over here these plants, these turkey crawl beans. They have been in the ground for over a month, and they are completely stunted. Now, okay, they're doing better. They've actually survived and are actually doing quite well. So what would cause this? I pointed at herbicides earlier. There's a couple of things that can affect plants like this. Okay, one is if you live in a residential neighborhood like we do, we know for a fact that our neighbors spray their yards to keep them nice and manicured. They've got companies like, Purple Thumb or green thumb and the purple guys or something like that. And they come through, and we've smelled it. You know, you can smell when our neighbors treat their yards. And so what happens is, when they treat their yards on a really hot day like they have this year, what happens is they spray, it vaporizes, and then the wind picks it up and blows it downwind. We are downwind from the neighbors that do that. So we believe that some of our plants had been inadvertently infected by our neighbors. However, I did not do my research with who we bought our hay with, which this bed still needs to be fixed, because we found out that the guy that we bought our hay from sprays his hay fields at least once a year, up to once a year, with herbicides, specifically Grazon. Grazon is an herbicide that kills wildleaf weeds, and so we have inadvertently poisoned our own garden with not getting organic hay. So this is the result. We went through, the hay actually did what it was supposed to, as far as keeping the weeds out, but who knows if there's not as many weeds in there because of the Grazon herbicide inside the hay. So we raked all of this up, and so I just want this to be a warning to all other gardeners who are considering using hay as your mulch. Make sure that the farmer that you're buying your hay from is organic, doesn't use fertilizers, and does not spray herbicides. I'm thankful that we contacted the farmer yesterday that we bought the hay from, and he was honest with us and said, yes, we do spray our hay fields. Our hay is not organic. So sadly, we did damage to our garden. We're very sad. It definitely explains why our garden isn't doing quite as well as it did last year. Last year at this time, all the plants were twice as big. We were already starting to get fruit from the tomatoes, and the pepper plants were already blooming and had fruit on them. And now granted, like I said, some plants were unaffected. The zucchini, it's growing great. We've already got a harvest off of it, eating some zucchini fritters. The cucumbers are doing better this year than they have previous years. They're not getting eaten up by bugs. And obviously the winter squash, and the carrots, those are doing great. And those were in beds that were mulched with the hay. Obviously, like I said, the corn was unaffected because Grazon is not meant to kill corn. They actually use Grazon in cornfields to suppress the weeds. And there are actually grape farmers who have had a lot of their harvest just taken away because a local corn farmer sprayed his field, and it drifted over onto the grapes and killed or stunted their grapevines, their vineyards. So anyway, I just wanted to share this with you guys as a warning, and as a just to educate you that you can poison your own garden, and you just got to be careful about what you put into it. Thanks for joining me today. God bless you. And may God make your gardens grow.